Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and
Scott
spirit.
Eilers. How you feeling, my man?
I'm good, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm good, dude. Everybody loves Dr. Scott. We got a first ever three-peat for the doctor on this. Two Scotts do make a right. We're going to talk about something interesting today. And this is probably something I deal with. And I was like, I guess we'll call it, what would you call it, Dr. Scott? Like just social perception of how you are, something like that. So we're going to be talking.
Overthinking social situations, I think, is kind of our tagline here.
I like that. That is the title. Thank you for making my life easier. That's the title of it. Overthinking social situations. This is my bread and butter. This isn't something you dealt with, was it? Because you're a chill dude. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Next level?
Of course it's something I've dealt with like my whole life. I'd like to think I'm better at it now, but oh my goodness, I am one of the biggest overthinkers you'll ever meet.
And like the key of this, right, is what people think about you, right? That's the crush of it. And for me, I would be I would torture myself, Scott. I would just, what is this person thinking? What is that person thinking? And I think the end game is you could actually, and you could tell me if you agree or disagree, there is no way I could actually know what you think of me, because then I'm trying to perceive what you are perceiving through my perception. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And I was when you said it's what other people think of you, the clarification, which you actually just pretty much nailed right there, is it's what you think other people think of you. Because you don't actually know. You don't know the answer to that question, but you're going to base your interactions with people on what you think they think, your perception of their perception, which I know is a little Inception-ish, but that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah. And so just even understanding that, though, from like an analytical perspective, let's turn away in the moment. We're going to get to all that stuff, being in the present. Like from an analytical standpoint, just accepting that kind of makes me feel better. Like I can never know this answer.
Right. It's an unsolvable problem, so you shouldn't waste time and energy on it, because you're not going to get there no matter what you do. You're not actually going to know.
So this question with the topic, it's unsolvable. What could we do to absolutely shush that fucking voice in my brain and be like, what does this person think of me? What are some of the tactics you use? Anything you want to say? I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, let me give you, there's a little bit of a sort of a baseline concept we got to establish first. And this relates to the perception of social awkwardness. There's a ton of other points we could jump off from here too, but let me just kind of get this out there as a base concept. So you have so much mental capacity at any given time, right? Your attention, basically. If you picture a pie chart with a bunch of different pieces of the pie constantly fluctuating, that's what you're focusing on, right? You have some certain amount of attention, and you're usually devoting it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things at a time. Whatever those things you are focusing on at any given moment, determine your reality. What you think, what you feel, what you experience, what you remember. It's only going to be the parts you focus on. The stuff you didn't notice won't be a part of your life, won't be a part of your memories, even if it happened. B, that's the only stuff you have any control or agency over. Something you're not paying attention to, you're not going to be able to change it. So that essentially is your world. Whatever you're focusing on in the moment. There's going to be tons of stuff that just flies under your radar. Your brain says, nope, don't worry about it, and it gets excluded. So that is your life, is whatever the contents that attention pie chart are at any given moment. And typically the more things are in there, the less well you're going to do at any one of them, because you're more divided. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So with that concept in mind, just think about a social interaction. Like let's say a one-on-one, 2 people, right? Like this right now. The best social interactions you have with people are the ones where things just flow really well, right? Like where you're not really having to think too hard. They say something and it pops something into your head, and you say something and you just go, and before you know it, like an hour has passed and you're like, man, that felt like nothing. I didn't have to work at that. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Those are the interactions we all want to have more of, right? So think about what that feels like, then go back to this pie chart idea. If you are spending a lot of your attention in social interactions on trying to manage yourself, on trying to like not be awkward, or trying to follow certain like preconceived social rules or trying to like hold in certain habits you think you have, it actually gives you less attention left over to engage in the conversation. And ironically, what I think that does is it makes you more awkward, because it removes that natural flow and that immediacy you can have with a person. And it makes it feel very like mechanical and stilted and just unnatural. And the funny thing is that can happen to a person who is not even necessarily a socially awkward person. The idea for this, as something for us to discuss, actually came up in a therapy session I was having with somebody. And this person perceives herself as a very socially awkward person. And every time I talk to her, I'm like, it isn't really like, we have no trouble here. And I know this is a normal social setting, but we talk so easily. Like what makes you think you're this awkward person? And that's kind of what we landed on, is it's just a belief she has. Yeah. And so it's how she conducts herself. And then that is what creates the awkwardness. When she can drop that, she's not at all.
So it comes back to the belief that, because I feel like a lot of people probably don't even think about this, but for us, I think you're in that boat. I'm in that boat. And honestly, Scott, I was the same way. I would say up until I realized how amazing I am, right? I was under this interpretation that like you're awkward, and it's just overthinking. And now doing comedy, doing the podcast, you understand like anytime you get on stage and you're in your head, so to say, I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. You're bombing. You're gonna fall flat on your face, because people could sense it. I don't think they even know they could sense it, but obviously there's just that feeling of tension when you're flowing. Like right now, me and you, I know we don't got to worry about that, because that's why we have you on and all that stuff. But like that flowing is hard to say, and it's kind of like a very Buddhist thing to say. Like just don't force it. Almost like you can't think about it. Like how do you prep her for that? Like you have to kind of remove, let's say that diagram, she has more percentages of thinking. Is you basically have to remove that, even that belief of that you're socially awkward.
Yes, but so that is the goal. However, the way our brains work, and this is true with anything, like right now we're talking about social awkwardness, but this could be anything. This could be anything you want to take up less space in your brain. Our brains do not work in a way that allows us to just take something out of there. And paradoxically, if you try to remove something from that pie chart, it gets bigger. This is the super frustrating thing about how our brains work. Yeah. We don't have like a stop button. And in order to try to not do something or not think about something, you have to think about it. Because otherwise you don't have a concept of, well, what's the thing I'm trying not to think about? Oh, how awkward I am. Oh, I am awkward. Like there's no way, right? Exactly. But there is a way to shrink how much space the things you don't want in there take up. And that way is to grow whatever else is in there. And that's kind of what we figured out in these conversations we were having. I said, it's like, so what are you focused on when we're talking? Are you focused on this idea that you're crazy awkward and whatnot? She's like, no, I'm really just like almost 100% focused on our conversation. I said, that's it. That's literally your answer. You're not leaving enough space for that belief that you're awkward to really operate when we converse. Therefore, it's not showing up and you're flowing better. And that's why we do all right. That's what it is. So it's not about decreasing the thing you don't want. It's about basically squeezing it out. Like, don't give it any space by increasing how much you're focused on whatever the other things going on are. In this case, it would be the conversation.
And are you trying to use your conversations as almost like a control experiment? Like, well, why do you feel that way? Because I'm sure, like, once you put, maybe if it was me, you, and 5 or 6 other people in a conversation, maybe I'd feel a little different. Maybe that, and I'm sure that's part of the situation of social awkwardness is more people, and that, like, how did you guys even get to that stage yet of trying to figure that out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly. I'm a big believer of like use the therapy session as it's not a perfect like stand in for real life, but people say a lot of things to me in therapy sessions that are like different than how I perceive them, and so then we use it as like, well, why doesn't that happen here? Like someone will say like, well, I'm not a likable person. Nobody likes me. I'm like, I like you. So what's different out there than in here? Because in here, things are okay. So yeah, we absolutely use that, and we practice it. Like literally picture the pie chart, practice doing this, practice directing your energy. Now, you don't have full control over the contents of that pie chart. Like you can't micromanage it. You'll drive yourself crazy if you try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have influence. You're not just a passive, helpless observer of your brain's own habits and tendencies. And your attention is the key. What you are focused on gets bigger in that pie chart. And that becomes your reality, and that becomes what dictates what you do and how you do it. So attention is the key. Mindful, conscious direction of your attention I believe can help most people minimize their social awkwardness.
Mindful, conscious attention.
Mm-hmm.
That is the piece missing in America. It feels
yeah,
like
you're not wrong about that one.
And now listen, you could use meditation as your piece to help you. How do you help your clients kind of focus? I have this issue with the young kids. I have this issue with the old people. I feel like we're living in different realities, and it all comes back to this awareness, your actual attention, even the attention span of sitting and being able to have a conversation for 40 minutes. I feel like it's hard for people. How do you help people kind of gate? Because it's such an underrated skill. I feel like if you took a piece of why is Will Smith successful, why is anybody successful, it would come back. This has to have a component of it.
Yeah. A question that I like to have people ask themselves when they're trying to practice this, and you can use this like in any setting. You can use this, in business and with family, with your hobbies, with whatever. Whenever you're doing something, just take a minute and ask yourself, what do I want to remember from this moment right now? Because whatever you are paying the most attention to will be what you remember about that moment. So I'll give you a simple but effective example. So this morning, it's a beautiful morning here in Iowa. It's sunny and breezy and warm, and we got a lot of trees in our yard and they're blowing. And it's just this really picturesque morning. And I'm sitting in our reading room with my daughter, my 5-year-old daughter, just reading some kids' books. And I kept getting distracted by my phone, kept wanting to look at things on my phone. I took a minute, I'm like, what do I want to remember from this morning? Do I want to remember sitting in front of this window reading books with my daughter? Or do I want to remember looking on Amazon for crap that I don't need? Easy answer, right? Of course I want to remember the time with my daughter. When I realized that, that's where my attention went. That was the answer to my question. And I think in many settings, our attention doesn't always go to the things we want to remember. The things you want to remember are probably the most important things going on around you, right? So if you can ask and then answer that question and direct your attention accordingly, I can think of very few, maybe no situations where that question will not lead you to your right answer every time.
Dude, that's a cool little shortcut. Because I feel like if you just use the phone for any example, even when you're doing something worse, even watching TV, whatever it is, if you want to watch, even I find myself nowadays, it's a little sitting through a 2.5-hour movie, you go to your phone. Like even if he's like,
Mm-hmm.
and what annoys me is I'm sitting here watching the show. We got Ozark back. We got Stranger Things. And then you go to your phone. It's like, why? Not only am I putting this on, I'm going to forget it and not pay attention. And just by asking your little question, like, what do you want to remember? I want to remember the movie. And it's even, we're not going to a beautiful situation like yours of the kids and that. Even when I'm on, when you're on vacation, you could use that. But like for every situation, with the second you touch that phone, where do you want to focus your attention? Because there is nothing good most of the time coming out of that phone situation. Like, and I feel like we're analytically finding these little shortcuts, which is cool. Now, if you take a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid, or even myself in some situations where I'm not optimized, it's hard to put that phone down, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When it's hard for you, do you do anything else?
If it's hard to put the phone down, that might mean that what's going on around you isn't quite as interesting as you'd like it to be. And sometimes that's something you can do something about. It's important to remember that our brains are naturally drawn towards novelty. Anything that's different from the norm will kind of grab us. And anything that's very routine, even if it's real good, anything that's routine, your brain says I kind of already know about that already. And that's a big part of why phones are so attention getting. There's always
something new.
Thousands of new things happening every second on your phone. It's going to be a different experience every single time, whether we're talking social media or gaming or whatever. It's always novel. Whereas people, If you've had certain people in your lives a long time, you know, they're not novel. Or like your house is not novel. Your car, well, I just moved, so my house is kind of novel. But like you get used to you get used to all this stuff. And then on a day-to-day basis, it loses its specialness, right? It doesn't actually lose its specialness, but it loses the subconscious appeal. Like you have to make yourself kind of remember that it's special, because your brain will be like, I kind of know about that already. Like I've been seeing that every day. It's normal to me now. And that I think that's why phones are such an attractive thing, because it will literally be different every single time. So that being said, I do think there is a lot of value in switching things up every now and then. If you are finding yourself very just not engaged with your environment or with the people in your life, that may mean, well, maybe it's time to do something new. Maybe it's time to find a new hobby to do with your partner or with your kids, or maybe it's time to make something different for dinner tonight that you've never made, or listen to a genre of music that you don't normally listen to. Like we need novelty, and all the things you love will start to feel mundane if you never switch them up. So that's another reason I think we can easily get drawn into the distractions like the phone, because we get too used to the good stuff we have in our lives, and then it doesn't feel as special anymore, even though it still is.
That's an interesting point, Scott. No, you're hitting some, because even I would say my life has become a little novel lately. Even like I've accepted I'm on the grind of podcasting. So things become a little similar with the back end of it. You're doing the marketing. I have to put the thing in. I have to send that, to post it. And it's like, and part of this problem is if you took our days, right, I would assume you're probably like me, where 70-80% of your day is going to be, you're going to have to clean the dishes. You're going to have to do your room. You're going to have to do all this. What do you think? I guess you would take the parts where you feel like you have to be aware, right? It all comes back to awareness. We talk about that all the time. Be aware of your day. And then you're saying, oh, well, I feel like my mornings are pretty mundane. Maybe throw something new in the middle of you doing what you got to kind of do.
And it doesn't have to be big too. I think that's the thing that trips people up, is they think, oh, like I have to change my whole morning routine or I'll get bored. Like, not necessarily. You can just change little things. So to give you some examples, like if tomorrow morning, instead of weight training, I do cardio. I don't do a lot of cardio, so that's very novel to me. That doesn't mean I have to like not work out in the mornings or have to go for a hike or something like that. Switch it up a little bit. Or even something as simple, if you want a really simple one, get a different body wash or shampoo or something like that. Like that's like the smallest kind of change you can make, right? Like a different scent or a different flavor toothpaste or something like that. Or get a couple new outfits that you're excited to wear. Get something for breakfast that you don't normally eat. It can be the smallest little incremental changes. But even those little things that get your brain just a little more interested and engaged in what you're doing, also makes you just a little more excited for the next day that's to come. It's a dangerous thing, no matter how good, and I'm a routine guy. I know you relate to me on that. I like routine. I like predictability. I like to know what I'm going to do tomorrow. But if I don't switch it up at least a little bit every now and then, I get bored. And when I get bored, that's not a good thing for me. I tend to not be my best self when I'm bored. So I gotta find these little tweaks or these little adjustments to make sure I stay engaged in my own life, or else it's not good for me otherwise.
And even taking that over and bringing it to what we're talking about, this kind of social awkwardness and situations, like even changing up, because like there's social norms in every conversation we have, right? There's the hellos, goodbyes, maybe changing that up. Because I was trying to figure out, I was thinking about this the other day, like why do I tend to people to kind of like me a little bit more? And it's because I actually just fuck around with the whole social norms of things. I'm going to say hello, I'm going to say goodbye, I'm going to bust your balls about something. It seems like that makes conversations for me a little bit more exciting. So it's funny that the thing you're suggesting to do is kind of the reason that I find myself at least more calm in situations with one-on-one. Because I feel like people, at least most people, could do better. I feel like the more people you add to the situation, the kind of more, for me being a high in neuroticism, it's easy for me to do a one-on-one because I could see you. I see what you're thinking of me. I could see the eyebrows. The second you start adding more people, that's when that stage fright comes in. That's when you can't kind of focus on one person, because then once you start focusing on one person, you lose the whole crowd. I'm talking more from a speaking standpoint. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, because what you're describing there, just to take it way back to where we started, is your pie chart. One-on-one, that other person, that one person, like right now it's me, I'm most of your pie right now, right? Say you're sitting at a table with 6 people, well, now each of them is like 15-ish%, right? So you're not that in tune with each individual person, which is going to decrease the quality of your interactions with that person because you're not all in on them the way you could be one-on-one. You're, like you said, you're gonna not notice things, misread things, you're gonna get distracted, and the quality of your engagement decreases because you got more things in that pie chart, more distractions. That's what it is. You just described it using different words.
I think people have to also realize, like, there is feeling socially awkward and then being socially awkward. Those are two separate things. I feel like that your client hit on. And what's the difference, right? I'd say that there's diction, right? There's obviously a word, but there's the word choice and then the perception that you have on yourself. So while being able to, like, even if you felt that way, you're going to have to make that a very minuscule part of the pie chart, because I feel like someone's talking to me about, just don't think of a white elephant, and then you're going to think of the white elephant, right? That's kind of, it's the catch-22 that you're kind of playing with yourself.
Yeah, they're very different things. There's a lot of people who think they're socially awkward who really probably aren't to a major degree. There's also a lot of people who are very socially awkward who are not aware of that fact. The ironic thing is, like, recognizing social awkwardness is a social skill. Because if you're in tune with other people enough to know, like, oh, they didn't like that. They thought that was weird when I said that just now. If you're in tune enough with people to notice those moments, you probably aren't that socially awkward. Because reading people's reactions to you is a very crucial social skill. And it's when you don't have the ability to do that things tend to get awkward. Like when you don't know you've lost someone's interest and you just keep going and going and going, and you're not reading like, oh, this person has like checked out 10 minutes ago. That's one of the things that tends to make it awkward, right? But if you're someone who's really in tune with other people's reactions, if anything, you'll have the opposite problem. You might be hyper aware and like overestimate when people are irritated with you or have lost interest in you, but you're probably not going to miss the real ones. So yeah, they're two very distinct concepts, I guess I would say.
Yes. And I think a part of this is, I would assume a person with this isn't the first time it pops up, right? Maybe let's say it's a confirmed thing, and maybe there's a part of letting this go, like letting go of the past almost, or letting go of that situation. Even for me, I would say this is talking to me when I have the, I always clung to like these issues of stage fright when I was a kid, and like, listen, those were clearly issues and problems, and it felt weird and it was weird, but like, why would I cling on to that? Like, you are not your past. And I think more of an analytical part of this is, understanding you are simply not as important as you think you are. Like, no one cares about you in that much. Everybody's dealing with what you're dealing with, your pie. They have their own pie that they're dealing with. And I think most people are much more consumed with their own issues, their presentation, their shit, so to say. And that's the first part, but then also not clinging to the past. So I think if you just take a little time and like analyze these things, it would at least alleviate the anxiety some, I would think. What do you say from a doctor's standpoint?
I think we, at least a lot of the people that I work with, people who have any level of like depression or anxiety, let's say, one of the things that you got to know about yourself, if that's you, is it means that your brain is going to really highly prioritize any moments or experiences you've had that felt like something that could be classified as failure. So interactions you did have with other people or in front of other people that didn't go the way you wanted to, those are going to basically get bookmarked. Your brain's going to say, this was real important. We got to never forget that this happened, because we got to make sure that this never happens again. That's the adaptive function that your brain is trying to serve in those moments. But this is yet another time when our brains don't always serve us the way we'd want them to. Remembering too many of those moments creates the perception that you're this socially unskilled or like unlikable person, which then puts this big thing in your pie chart that you feel like you've got to manage all the time, when in fact, a lot of those moments, either maybe they happen at just a normal frequency. Everybody has those moments. Everybody has attempts at conversation where they just don't connect with the other person. Everybody has had a presentation go wrong here and there. Anyone who's given them, like, no one is on their A game 24/7. And the quality of social interactions isn't just a skill that you can't carry it by yourself. Like, maybe the person you were talking to was awkward, and so you felt like it was an awkward conversation because of what they were bringing in. But like you said, we tend to overestimate our negative influence on situations or on life in general. And if we have a conversation with another person that doesn't go well, we will often walk away thinking like, oh, I screwed that up, when it may have been they didn't have great conversations skills, or it may just have been like we weren't a great fit.
Yeah.
You just like you, yeah. Like sometimes that's all it is. I think a lot of times that's all it is. Maybe I'm a decently socially skilled person and you're a decently socially skilled person, but we just don't have that much in common. And so there's no connection, there's no click, there's no natural flow. We both got to kind of work hard to like think of things to say. And we both walk away thinking like, oh, that wasn't great. But that doesn't mean either of us did anything wrong. It just might not have been there.
And even maybe that person was just having a shit day. Maybe that person just had something going on. And I think that we're talking to people with, we're going to be talking to people with anxiety, right? And they're more the overthinkers that are hypersensitive. Yeah. So why not use this to our advantage? This is what I tried to do. I tried to be like, listen, this is the way you are. So the good news is you're not going to be oblivious to this piece, which is another positive of this. I think becoming conscious of this and like, it's hard because being conscious of it and being aware of it goes against the pie chart piece. So I'm trying to think of another way to do this, but maybe I think the acceptance is the way to go. So it's like, understand that this is a part of it, whatever. And then where your focus goes, your energy flows. So just because for me, it's just when I meditate and I'm up for the hour and a half and I'm breathing, I feel so like, I feel it in the moment. And I can't describe what or why or who or what the science behind it, but I think everybody has to find that comfort zone in the morning to be able to just kind of center themselves. That's just, I'd say centering is it's like perfect. I don't want to beat people up on the train. I don't want to do this. I don't do that. I'm not overthinking. And whatever it takes for you to get there, everybody has whether it be breath work, working out, find that stillness, that peace for you to be that person. And then all the thoughts kind of like for me, the reason people are like, why are you so fit? I'm fit so I don't stress myself out, because whenever I eat the next day, I just feel terrible and I'm overthinking. It's just easier not to do it. It's not even because I want to be healthy. It's just because I don't want to fucking hear the thoughts. That's something for me. So I think finding these leverage points and like what actually like how can your mind can be calm. And for somebody who's thinking, I can't calm my mind, you certainly could if you just kind of just sit for a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of times like, calm isn't, meditation might be the one exception to what I'm about to say. But generally speaking, I think what most of us experience as a sense of calm isn't a lack of cognitive energy. I think that's the stereotype, is being calm means like, oh, not thinking about things. Well, that doesn't happen very often. Like that only really happens when your brain is in alpha wave production mode, which is shortly after you wake up, right before you go to bed, or after a very, very relaxing activity like meditation or yoga or
massage or something.
Yeah. You can have those moments during the day, but they're always going to be kind of rare. Most of your day, your brain is in beta wave production mode, which means it's very active and producing a lot of thoughts. So I think that the most sustainable state of calm that most of us can really hope to achieve, going back to the pie chart again, such an important concept, I think, making sure that most of the things taking up space in that chart are not things that worry you. You can have a very active mind. You can have a lot on your mind. You can have a lot of thoughts occurring and still be calm, as long as those thoughts are things that are not stressing you out. That's something I know people get wrong about me a lot, because I'm a fairly high energy person. I like to be busy. I like to be doing things. And people associate that with me being stressed or unhappy or anxious. I'm like, no, these are good things. Like, yeah, I'm renovating my house right now, but I think that's fun. I'm not stressed about it. Like, it's not falling apart. It's just parts of it just look like crap, and I want to make them not look like crap, and that's fun and rewarding to me. I'm not stressed about it. It's something engaging and enjoyable, and it keeps my mind off things that would stress me out. So to me, that's a state of calm, because I'm not really bothered by anything.
See, and I think that that's even more important than what we're talking about, this relationship that we have to things like, because I'm sure, I think if you put me in a house that's not done, I probably would not be saying, like, you were like, oh, it's fun, it's a project. I'd be like, why is this not perfect? But that's the relationship people have. And you could, use any example, but a lot of people, I think, just that's probably what the being aware and the consciousness of it is more important. Like understanding like how you are and how you view things and what is your relationship to everything. Because I'm sure you have people in your life that just everything's just misery. And for you, I know you're an active guy, but you never come off as like a stressed out guy to me. It's like, just like that, you know what you're doing, you know what's important, you prioritize that, but you're also going to be able to get shit done, which is like a nice balance that I think we're all trying to master in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly. Yeah. And you nailed it. You got to know you, because not a lot of people would probably be very stressed out trying to live my life. And I'm not saying the way I do it is the right way. I've learned through trial and error that this is the right way for me. Going to grad school for mental health, there's so much emphasis on self-care, as there should be. This can be a very stressful career, but we get very linear about what we think of as self-care. And I remember like in internships and from supervisors and professors hearing that a lot, like, slow down, don't be so busy, don't be doing too much. And I try and I'm like, this is not helping though. Like when I try to just like rest, like just sit, try to clear I feel worse, because what it does is it creates empty space in my pie chart. And I have the kind of brain, and I think this is a lot of people in some way, shape, or form. I have the kind of brain who's going to fill any empty space in that pie chart with the worst possible thing. That's just how my brain works. I'm a pessimist. I'm a worst case scenario guy. I always have been. And I cope with that by not giving it very much space to do that with. If I can keep my mind occupied with high stimulation, low stress, novel tasks, those are the three key elements. I feel pretty good most of the time. And I think that's what we all want.
Yeah. And I think like I would be a little different than you, because I want not so much space. We're both doers and we're active. But for me, finding that stillness in the morning, finding that maybe even at night for 10, 15 minutes, it just eases me down, where I think we both have that anxiety. It's just different ways of dealing with it and figuring it out. And that's the best part of all of this is you can pick, you can meditate, cannot meditate, you can take your approach, take my approach. As long as we get there in the end, I think that's the issue here is people think, even the healthcare world today, you think it's a one size fits all. Here, take these pills. That'll make you feel good. No, you don't have to. You could take your approach, use it. Just even for me now, me and Scott didn't talk about this earlier, like that Venn diagram thing. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my Venn diagram. Like, what is this being filled with? Because for me, I think there's been less doing. And I think part of that is I'm not on top of that piece of the pie. Not so much from an anxiety standpoint, just to get shit done. Like when you start looking at it, it may want to kick you in the butt a little bit. What are you lacking? And what are you like missing or something? So where'd you get that Venn diagram from, that idea? Is that you think?
I think I got it from my own brain. Yeah. I got to be a little, I'll tell you a funny story. I'm always a little careful when I say, oh, I just made this up, because I've learned that I can't always trust my recall on that. And back when I was an intern running an intensive outpatient program, I used to present this bell curve of stress versus productivity, and how, you may have seen this before, like medium amount of stress is best. Too little stress, you don't care. Too much stress, you get overwhelmed. You want your flow state basically is what it's articulating. And I swear I just noticed it in my own life. And for like a year, I'm teaching this as Scott's stress graph, no joke, okay? And then we had this sociology student in the program, and she's like very quiet, meek, mild-mannered girl, kind of halfway raises her hand. She's, this sounds very similar to the Yerkes-Dodson stress law. Looked it up, literally the same thing. Same diagram, same axes, only they got there about 100 years before me. So
it happens.
I have to be a little careful about like, oh yeah, I made this up, because I may have independently come up with this idea, but someone else may have done it first. But as far as I know, that the fluctuating pie chart for attention, as far as I know, that's a Scott original. If not, I apologize to whoever I subconsciously stole it from.
Dude, either way, it's working. And I feel like that's when you're when your mind's working the right way, when you're doing stuff that's already been done. Like, all right, I kind of got here intuitively, so that's pretty good. But
yeah, exactly. I was still proud of myself for the stress graph because I don't think I had heard it, because it's from industrial organizational psychology, which was an elective. Great subtype, but it was an elective where I'm in school and I never took it. So unless I just heard it in a conversation sometime, I still think I came up with it on my own. I simply was not the first person to do so.
Gotcha. Cool, man. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining again. You got for When Everything is Burning, that's out on hard. Is that, did I see that right? Get that on hard copy?
It's out. Yeah. So it's now out in 4 different formats. We got the paperback, we got the Kindle version, we got the audiobook, and as of about a week ago, the hardcover. Yours will not say not for resale. I don't know if this is going to be a deal, but it won't have that little stripe there. That's an author copy. But for those of you that want one that stands up and looks even better on the shelf, you can get a hardcover now.
Yes, I've read it, and it's basically Scott explains like complex psychological issues in a way that's easy to understand, and he's been through some shit. I'll tell you that. I'll save part of it for it. But Scott, dude, always a pleasure. We'll see you. We'll see you in a couple months here, man. So just thank you so much, people on YouTube. If you're watching, thank you so much for joining us. Do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, smash the like button. For the people listening, thank you guys so much for the support. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Talk to you later, Scott.
Peace.